What's up, guys? You know what night it is? Wednesday night, off-centered with Dustin, the artist formerly known as the Personal Finance Dad. 299 people know him as a Retro Game Dad. You gained a follower somehow.
Do I still have that many on there? Okay.
It's still up there, but your subscriber count is growing quite rapidly as the Sports Card Dad. Congrats on the progress and the good videos and the content you're putting out. Tonight it's gonna be a lot of fun. We have Peter Steinberg of SGC joining us. Obviously, there's a lot going on with SGC as well as all the grading companies. There's innovation, there's new technology, there's lowering prices. So a lot of moving pieces in that. And Peter's very fired up. He's a very passionate president of his company. And so it's going to be a fun show. So hope you guys are ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Are you going to ask me about the thing?
Well, I mean, look, the first topic we got to talk about, let's say hi to a couple people. Then we'll go into the most obvious, the elephant in the room. Good to see a Luca Nation sensation. Mike C. in the house. Global sports card investor. Good day, sir. Helix Band. Great to see you, Brian. And, the Buccaneers. I don't know what's going on with your Saints. Your Saints are horrible, but you don't have a quarterback. Bucs have a quarterback, but they're just not doing very well.
Yeah, we've got like the third stringers are all out there. We're just beat up.
Yeah, and the Bucs just, dude. If there's one player that I think would be a solid, interesting investment, but I would not be surprised if there's upside, is Rob Gronkowski, because the Bucs need him. And if one player can be pulled back into playing, it would be Gronk. If it's Tom Brady.
We talked about that preseason, though. You know, it was kind of like, what's Brady going to do without Gronk? And I know he's got a bunch of good players. He's got Godwin and Evans and these guys, but Gronk was really the glue.
He was the glue. He could block. And more than anything, even if he's way past his prime, it's the chemistry with Tom Brady, because you see it with receivers. It's like you can be a very talented receiver, but you're going left instead of right. You're not sitting in the open zone. You're not turning your head at the right time. And Gronk is one of those guys where his chemistry with Tom Brady is so good that, again, around week 10 and week 12, I wouldn't be surprised if Tom is like, look, I'm going through a divorce. We're sitting at 500. I need you to come back. Or we're doing quite well now.
Wouldn't that be a plot twist if Gronk is the real reason for the divorce? We'll find out later. He's retired.
Yeah. Anyway,
Grumpy Card Guy in the chat. I haven't seen Grumpy Card Guy in forever. So shout out.
Yeah, good to see a great avatar as well.
Philly Joe, how you doing? Michael Ham.
Yeah, Philly Joe, great to see you as well. Michael Stone in the house as well. Hopefully I'll see Michael Stone on a Card Life live stream at some point. I know he can't really make Friday mornings, but it'd be great to see him. Chris K, great to see you as well. Sorry about your Dolphins. If you're a Dolphins fan, they've kind of fallen off lately. Bucs need to get healthy. They need Gronk back. Absolutely. And I just think it'd be an interesting investment, because worst case scenario, Gronk is still retired and he still has his media deals and he's still a big personality. But best case scenario, Tom Brady says, hey, I need you. It's week 12, week 14. You didn't have to batter up your body. Just get in shape and let's make a playoff run, and maybe you'll get another ring. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Gronk only plays postseason football from here on out. He just shows up in like January.
Did you see that little clip from Fox where he was talking to this was years ago. He was talking to the Fox halftime guys, Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, etc., about the time he almost got traded to the Detroit Lions.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
It is the funniest thing. He's like, yeah, I was like contemplating retirement, and then I got a call saying that I've been traded to the Detroit Lions from, I guess, the GM of the Patriots at the time. And he goes, oh, no, you can't trade me. I retired. And so he just, once he heard that he got traded to the Lions, he just said, no, you can't trade me. I retired. And then he just came back to play. And then, dude, it was the funniest clip, though. You got to see it, because he just starts laughing, and then all the other guys, Michael Strahan and everyone just starts cracking up, because it's such a Gronk thing for him to just play by his own rules.
Oh, Michael Stone nailed it.
This one right here.
Well, yeah, that
or So the elephant in the room. What in the world is Dustin wearing? I couldn't tell if he's like part of a gang. I don't know if this is
I found this store in the mall that sells basically like a turtleneck hoodie. It's Born Fly brand.
How many colors do you have? It's like eggshell, green,
There's
blue.
all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah.
Are you trying to be young?
Pockets. What do you mean? Am I trying to be young? I am young.
Are you going to be the hip sports car dad? Are you going to?
I'm trying to look. My kids. I've got to kind of keep up with the times here. I can't just let it all fall apart.
What's that video game with the guy that wears the hood, but the hood is from
Assassin's Creed or something?
Yeah, it's kind of like a hip Assassin's Creed, because the hood, that's an like Assassin's Creed hood. Yeah, keep it up for a minute. In fact, maybe keep it up for the whole show.
No, not even for the whole show.
Just for another second.
So when I've got my sniper rifle, it comes in handy just to kind of keep everything tight around the head.
Well, then the look goes together. But even that hood, though, it's not like a normal hoodie hood. It's like a very 1500s medieval type of hood. Put it on one more time.
That's the store in the mall. It's medieval times wear. Medieval times outfitters.
I like the racing stripe. They have a racing stripe on the top of the hood. That's cool. Okay. Anyway, Dustin's Creed. There we go. Dustin's Creed. All right.
Mike nailed it. Yeah, I did. I wore it to Culture Collision. I was trying to be cool with all the Culture Collision people. Like, hey, look, what's up? Everybody was like, whoa, look at that hoodies, turtleneck sweater thing.
But it doesn't go with your giant white New Balance shoes with the Velcro strap, because shoelaces are too advanced for you at this age.
I'm not that far gone yet where I've got the New Balances out mowing the grass.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, anyway. Well, I told Peter that it would be 5 minutes after. We're at 7 minutes after, so let's bring him on. We'll skip my dating life this time, but it has been pretty good. I'll let you know. Dating life has been solid.
All I see is food on your Instagram, so you might want to just tighten it up a little bit, because all I hear is talk. I don't see anything. There's
I'm not posting that stuff on Instagram. You got to add some mystery. Who am I eating with? Who am I having drinks with?
Have some mystery, but there's all the mystery. Like, there's nobody on there. All there is like waffles, like man waffles, man cakes, or whatever the hell. Or it's like pancake. Or it's like, I'm having a triple Sunday. It's a great Sunday afternoon, or something stupid. Like, throw something up there.
I don't have interesting clothes like you to say, hey guys, check out my new ancient medieval hoodie. Do you guys
later medieval hoodies?
Anyway, Peter's getting agitated. So let's bring him on. He's like, what is this crap? Peter, great to have you back, man. How was everything?
It's good to be back, guys. That's quite the intro. Thanks so much for that, I guess.
Yeah. You're a pretty outspoken person. So the first question has got to be, what is your take on Dustin's attire? And be honest, not like, hey, he's a nice guy.
Michael Stone, I thought the same thing when I got on, which is what is this guy wearing?
I had to throw a wrench in tonight. I was like, it's not going to be a regular shirt. It's got to be something it's got to be a little weird tonight. It's almost Halloween. Got to get weird.
What inspired you to buy that, though? Because it's so far outside of your normal attire. Did you get it as a gift? Did you whatever?
No, literally, it was like a store in the mall, and I never go to malls ever. And so, like, me and the fam were in the mall. We found this random outfitter store or whatever, and I was like, hey, that looks kind of comfortable. I threw it on.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, it looks
really strange. I've never seen anything weird, like that before.
But comfortable. So yeah, I just picked it up. Got to switch it up.
This is so ugly that it has to be comfortable. Let me check. And then that's exactly what happened. But Peter, great to have you on.
I'm going to Mexico on Saturday, so I've got all the Mexican colors on. I can take it to Mexico. I'll be all good.
You'd probably insult the locals.
They'll be like, "What? There's a sniper." It actually looks like a sniper in that thing.
What if like the opposing gang wears stuff like that, and then they just know to like hunt you down?
No,
that's
then
what I'd be nervous of.
I was going to say I just fit right in. I just fit in with the guys. Just jump in with them.
They're intimidating.
Yeah, they're like, "Whoa, that dude is weird as hell. Don't mess with him." All right, anyway. Peter, I'm going to actually ask actual stuff now. All right, I'm going to break into it. Brad, be quiet. All right, so 10 days or so into the price decrease, how are we feeling about the volume? We see kind of the grading data comes out. It's, it is what it is. What's kind of your feeling? You lowered the prices. Are you guys feeling good about volume, capacity, and all that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was definitely a well thought out kind of tough decision. Obviously, anytime you're making any kind of change as a grading company, the impact that has on so many people really speaks for itself. So you have to be just absolutely meticulous, measured. Every, I guess, circumstance has to be accounted for when going out there and changing anything. And Good to see you, Neo. But basically, things have gone very well. I mean, this is honestly, Dustin, the first week we've really been able to gauge kind of how things are going from a volume perspective. When we made the announcement, it was great to see an overwhelmingly positive amount of feedback on Instagram. And I do want to also address, not everything is positive, and we see negativity as well. In fact, we spend more time on the negativity than the positivity, if I'm being honest with you. But overwhelmingly on Instagram, at least, and the other social media channels, it seemed like everyone was very pleased with the news. We're seeing the same thing from a volume perspective. Like I said, there is a delayed effect here when you announce and kind of getting that first wave of orders. I'm a very transparent guy. I'll tell you exactly what we received. We received, I believe it was a touch under 8,000 cards on Monday. For SGC, that's a lot of cards. That's a ton of cards. Yesterday, we received almost 6,000. And today, we had a little down day. It could be a mail issue. Remember, one day we'll get 1,000 cards. The next day, we get a whole boatload of cards based on when the Postal Service decides to kind of do their jobs. So we've seen a great response, and we're ready to kind of keep going, if that makes sense. Just keep giving, keep making it sweeter for everyone.
I mean, hell, if you were sitting at I was talking to Evan about it earlier. It's like if you guys were sitting at 5,000 to 8,000 cards a day, and that was just kind of your regular, like that's the norm, that's the new norm. That's 200,000 to 250,000 a month. That's a hell of a lot of cards.
Well, it is, Dustin. Remember, that's, our capacity is different than what we take in. And if I'm being honest with you, traditionally in this industry, and it hurts me to see the comments, some people with our basically immediate turnaround time, at least for now, they comment. I saw a comment, and I don't want to give anyone credit that I may feel doesn't deserve it, but I saw a comment, and that comment was, it was actually about a previous interview I'd done. And the guy said, wow, he's touting, he's puffing his chest that they're shipping orders the same day they receive. Ouch. And my thought is, ouch. How is that ouch? I'm receiving more cards than a lot of other companies, and I'm overstaffed intentionally. The way it's worked in the past, Dustin, is really that, companies are businesses. All companies are businesses, and they make a little more money when they have a little less employees, a little less of a head count. A little less expenses while they're doing your cards. And if you spend more money on not only people, but the right people, that allows cards to move very quickly. So we've chosen to overstaff by a bit rather than understaff. That's a calculated decision. I could have a 30-day backlog if I'd like. I just choose not to because I'm a collector, and I don't really see the value in a 30-day backlog as opposed to getting your card back literally like the next day. That's how I do.
Is that the thing that you want to be known for? Other than now consistent grading and all the rest of it, that goes without saying, but just that turnaround time, is that the thing that you want to, like, above all else, you want to keep that tight?
This may surprise you, but no, that's not what I want to be known for. And I kind of, in the split second you were asking that question, dug deep and really asked myself, what do we want to be known for? And that's a tough question, but if I'm being like real, honestly, I want to be known as the company where like the CEO is on the East Coast and the individuals that are interviewing him maybe on the West Coast. So their 9 o'clock his 9 o'clock, my 9 o'clock is your 6 o'clock. I went home, I had dinner, I came back to the office because I just care a lot to win people over, I guess you'd say, to win their support for our team. So I think what we want to be known for are the team that just is constantly giving collectors what a grading company should be giving collectors, which is just making it better and better and better and trying to earn the business rather than just kind of pumping up the brand name with a bunch of marketing dollars and then, kind of resting on our laurels.
Yeah, it was funny because I was thinking of a similar question, and you answered it pretty much exactly what I was hoping for. It's just, we're seeing more tech companies like Tag and Arena Club enter the space. PSA has their mission statements, their goals. Not everyone can be number one in terms of volume, but also not every company needs to have that as a goal. So would you just say the most collector-friendly grading company, if there's like an ethos for SGC as a collector, it's not the one that leads with technology, the one that leads with history or leads with like the way it was or blah, 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 blah. But would you say it's just the most collector focused, the most collectors, like would you add to anything that you just said in terms of really honing in on your mission statement for the company as a whole?
Sure. I mean, I think speaking to that, Brad, it's almost imagine I have a certain tool at my disposal to kind of, it sounds corny, but almost like help make the hobby better, make a difference in the hobby. And there are times, believe me, I wish we were number one, because I can tell you what I would do if I was leading that company, and boy, would it make an impact. Unfortunately, we're not number one as of now. We are much smaller compared to that, obviously, behemoth of an operation, and really just company in general. However, due to the, I guess, limitations that come with any company's capabilities, call it, I have to assess my own and then say, well, what can I do to help? And similar to kind of going back to your question, Dustin, about that turnaround time, if I didn't think that it was helping the hobby, helping the collectors and making them want to grade with SGC, essentially, we wouldn't be at that immediate turnaround time. We'd go to a different playbook. However, with what the other grading companies are offering and really everything out there, I guess you'd say, the current state of collecting being what it is, I happen to think that SGC's positioned itself in a way where we are just providing a tremendous amount of value to collectors like you guys, basically.
And real quick, I'm seeing comments or questions here in the chat. We'll get to that later on in the show, but we want to run through a couple topics first. But we definitely see your comments there in the chat and your questions. So just give us some time before we do like a rapid fire or address some of those questions, maybe on the second half of the interview. But Dustin, did you have something?
Yeah, just kind of on the back of what you were saying, Pete. You said, you guys are running a little bit more kind of nimble and not as much of a, not as large of an organization as maybe some of the others or the number one, but you are moving into a larger space, and so are you able to disclose kind of how you're prioritizing that space? Is that a capacity thing? Is that to hold more cards? Is it more employees, or is it a combination? Are you able to speak to that, or maybe not, but I just thought I would ask.
No, of course. Basically what I could say is that, due to the rapid nature of the the rapid growth that SGC has gone through over the past 2 years, because I can tell you guys, when I joined the SGC team, as great as it was a very small fraction of the size of what we are today. Having said that, it was, again, just speaking to how we plug SGC in to be what the hobby needs in that moment. What the hobby needs right now is very different than what the hobby needed last year, and certainly different than what they needed a few years back. What I mean by that is that when these other companies closed down and there were essentially no other options, it meant the world to me that we were at the very least pumping cards out, graded accurately, not sacrificing quality, and doing everything we could to keep up with the somewhat out of control demand, honestly, due to circumstances even. What I mean by that is it just seemed like when we were at a 3,000 card capacity, there were 4,000 cards coming in. And then when we finally built it to 4,000, it had risen to 5,000. So it was this constant game of keep up. And at the time, all we had to prioritize was just quality and capacity. And due to that, there are certain things about our office space, our facility, about just really the nature of the operation, where if I had the time on my hands, I would have done things very differently for efficiency purposes. We are very interested in podcasting and offering the hobby a podcast, hopefully what collectors feel unlike any other. And we wanted, and this is just transparency into what I was talking to, you mentioned Evan today, or you mentioned Evan earlier. I was talking to Evan about this earlier. The reason we don't have a podcast yet is we decided, you know what, let's move. We'll build out this insane studio and we'll have video so people could really capture the energy, the true scope of who we are and how cool it is to kind of hear from a grading company. And it was today when I finally said, you know what, Evan, sorry, pal, we're doing it. It's going to be just audio because, in other words, Dustin, we don't have the studio yet. We are bursting at the seams of our current space because, again, we didn't have the luxury of shopping around and making things look very nice. It was go, go, go on behalf of the hobby to keep up with the turnaround time, basically. So that's what I'd say. I mean, the new space is going to have a studio, and it's going to be an awesome studio. We'd love to have the ability where collectors, if I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do want to be transparent. And if I'm being transparent, guys, I want to give you a tour of our office space. I truly do. It's a challenging thing due to obvious security issues, of course, with the value of everyone's cards in our building, and that is certainly at the forefront. However, when I say I'm proud of what we're doing here, like, guys, I am truly a collector, just like all of you who graded cards and collected cards and just hit the lottery and got very lucky where, a few things went my way and all of a sudden I'm making very impactful decisions that affect all of us here in the hobby. And to be able to offer collectors the ability to walk through our operation, like shake hands with the people that are grading their cards, I just think that is so cool.
Kind of like a Krispy Kreme. You can see the donuts coming off of the conveyor belt or whatever.
Why not?
Like cream-colored hoodies.
And as long as I can ensure that we're keeping my employees and the cards safe, I would love to. So the new space is going to be very exciting. It's going to open up opportunities that up until this point have just been total impossibilities.
Well, one thing, hold that, Brad, real quick. Hold that thought. One thing I was talking to him about too with Evan is it would be really cool, especially now a lot of hobbyist collectors, they're looking for transparency with all, there's stuff in the hobby where there's things that go sideways and, from manufacturers, from grading companies, there's just kind of everyone's looking for more transparency, and the grading companies, it's kind of like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Like nobody knows what the hell is going on back there outside of like Jeff Wilson being able to come into your office, last year. I haven't seen anything like that anywhere else, quite like that. So, yeah, I mean, even if just on the podcast, there was just little nuggets of things. Obviously, you don't want to give away trade secrets and all that, but I mean, just little daily nugget things that the average person wouldn't know because they just don't see behind the scenes. I think that'd be really interesting for people.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like I was going to say something similar where we have Tag and we have Arena Club. We have ones where transparency based on automation or technology in this is their forefront, but SGC seems like transparency in terms of operations and the people in the office and the whole process could easily be something that helps your company stand out from the other major traditional graders as well. And it's kind of led with your personality and how you're outspoken and you're always doing interviews and you're always like, defending your position and clarifying things. So just right there, I think it goes hand in hand. A podcast, a video series, anything that you want to do that shows behind the scenes and introduces us to some of the graders, introduces us to the seniority, goes over a lot of these questions that we see here in the chat that you can answer. I think that's something that I would feel better about the overall, your company overall outside of just the transaction and knowing that my card is going to be objectively graded or as objectively as possible, but saying I feel good about this company as just good people and what they're about. So I just want to, give you kudos for going in that direction because I think that it will be more beneficial than detrimental in any way.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I mean, I always say when I speak here, I have a major, I guess you'd say, I have major wins behind my sales here. And the reason is because I'm, I guess, taking the lead of whatever you call this that I'm playing right now, face or leader or whatever it is. When you, at least, again, I always say my biased opinion, I do know our graders very well. I know our graders. I know our grading scale. I've been trained by our graders. I know this very, very well when it comes to the cards themselves. When you have grading that truly stands out as being the most consistent, accurate, experience, fair, no games, no biases, no anything, I think that that's a major leg up. That should be number one. I always say it. Every collector is different. But the one thing that I hope all collectors that are, I guess, buying these graded cards prioritizes as number one is that the grade is right, is that the grade is fair and it's accurate. And everything else it could vary on people's totem poles. But to me, if you're not putting the most emphasis behind the grade of the card, but instead maybe the plastic around it, or even the label in it, or even the app that could function in a certain way, I do kind of, I'm not going to lie, I kind of scratch my head at that. We're card collectors. We're not plastic collectors, and it's not to say it's not important. And to some people, it's very important. But I just want to, I guess, reiterate that when you have great graders and you're doing it the right way based on their expertise, everything else kind of, it's easy when that happens. When that's not happening, that's when it gets really difficult, because I'm kind of talking out of my rear end if that was the case.
You could say ass. It's not a family show. Anyway, so this is interesting because how old are you again, Peter? I know you're like 32, 34, something like that.
No, my birthday is at the National every year, which my wife cannot stand. So at this year's National in Atlantic City, I turned 28.
28. Oh my God. Oh, holy crap. All right. So this is what's interesting is that, all right, you're 28.
Peter's actually my son. I just thought I was
exactly.
That's why you got the partnership.
Sports card dad.
Yes.
Sports card son, Peter Steinberg.
There you go. Sports card son.
I mean, I would still say Dustin won't be able to teach you anything about YouTube, though, unfortunately. But so my question is this: you're 28, in charge of a traditional grading company, but then we have these technology-based companies. We have Arena Club that's being, computerized grading, and we have Tag, which is computerized. And as a 28-year-old in charge of a traditional grading company with graders the way it has been, but also being young and being with the future of the hobby, and obviously with the, being able to relate to the demographics on both sides, since you're kind of around the older, more traditional demographic as well as the younger. What are your thoughts on technology being introduced into grading? Because that's obviously something that there's a push for. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know how accurate or what all the little errors or challenges that'll come up. But especially with your position at your age and in charge of SGC, what's your perspective there?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of my age and perspective, I actually have a very interesting one. Yeah, holy crap, you're old, right? I might be 28, and this might sound a little, I don't want to sound like the kid who's trying to convince you that he's not a kid, but I'll say this. I might be 28, guys, but I joined SGC in January of 2018. And that sounds rather recent when you think about, how I've been lucky enough to elevate so quickly. But back in January of 2018, not only was SGC so different, this hobby was so I'm not sure if you guys can speak to it, but if you were there, it was such a different.
It's when I got back in. Yeah, I got back in.
A lot of others. Yeah, I mean, it was so different. So I am so thankful for the fact that I joined SGC in 2018 and got to work on this side of the line, kind of serving, I guess the former version of the hobby. And I'm also so thankful that I lived through the craziness of 2020, and we made some mistakes as a company out of inexperience. And, I might be young, but remember, to my knowledge, I am the longest tenured leader of a grading company out there right now. Okay? These other guys might be smarter than me, and they might be, a lot better equipped, call it, but I've been here longer, believe it or not. And I think that's an interesting fact. But as far as the technology goes, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I haven't seen all of it firsthand. I mean, I don't mean every company's technology, but believe me, if you think that these companies aren't approaching bigger companies to try to kind of sell their product before they try to, kind of take us on themselves, that happens. And if I'm being honest with you guys as well, we have been wildly successful at SGC, which I'm very proud of, because we've done it the right way. And what that means is if we wanted, we could acquire many of these companies. And you know what? I've seen impressive things, and I've seen things that are more not so impressive, maybe a little, I don't want to say deceiving as if it's intentional, but just something that might look cool, but in reality, there's a lot of problems there. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, remember what I said earlier, like I try to plug SGC in as best as I can, where I think we should be. And at some point, maybe that will be, AI assisted more type thing, I could tell you one thing. I know how we do things. I'm just very confident that we do this, at least in the year 2022, as best as we possibly can. And that may change one day, and we can, revisit it then. But for now, I am thrilled with the quality of work that our grading team is putting out there from like I said, an accuracy, consistency, fairness perspective.
Okay, so the door is open for potential involvement with AI technology in the future when it makes the right sense to you to get involved at whatever level.
Right. We've actually dabbled in AI ourselves. I don't want to stake our claim as the first ones to do it, but we were doing it back in 2018. So like this is not a new phenomenon, the idea of AI. And when we were doing it, there was nothing really to base it off of. There was no, at least to our knowledge, may have been happening behind the scenes at other grading companies, but to our knowledge, that was not out there. So there was nothing really to compare it to. We almost felt like trailblazers, if that makes sense. Just even the idea of looking into that. The thing that's different about SGC is our grading is the best part about it, and we have so many graders on deck because we have kind of made, I guess you'd call it a card school or a minor league system even of kind of this hierarchy to rise into the grading room. So what I'm trying to say is grading just isn't the problem at SGC. And SGC has problems like all companies do, but grading isn't one of them. And I think when you're a behemoth that's doing, almost you could argue like too many cards a day, it could be a different story where all of a sudden you don't know your graders as well as I know mine. And understand, if I had 180 graders, I might not know exactly where each of them came from and might not have the level of trust I do and confidence. So at least with what SGC is again, the state of SGC today, it's like we got 99 problems and grading ain't one type thing. But again, I am not stubborn. Like I am very much I evolve, if that makes sense. So that's where I stand today.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we were talking before the show, growth opportunities, and we see this grading data come out, and I talk about it in videos, but TCG, is a huge part. It looks like it's about 30% of PSA's business. It makes up 60, 70% of CGC's business. I look at SGC's numbers there and, to me, that just seems like, I saw a report that 9 billion Pokemon cards were printed last year or something. So if you're a grading company, you've got to be licking your chops at stuff like that. What are your thoughts on TCG? Is it I guess you guys are obviously big sports card company. I know you grade TCG stuff, but what's your overall take on it?
I could say this, the 9 billion cards, and this is why I think we're different, and admittedly, this is why I'm a little different in my approach. The 9 billion cards isn't what has me licking my chops. What has me licking my chops is that the collectors and the TCG community have a select few companies that do things a select few ways, and I happen to think that we can make it a lot better for them. In addition, what I'm very much looking forward to is releasing this unbelievable team I have. Dustin, believe it or not, you wouldn't know it from let's say those gem rate numbers that do accurately show how few TCG cards we get relative to the other grading companies. I would say as far as talent, expertise in the building, guys, it's got to be at least 40-60. Sports 60, TCG 40. I find that so many of our new hires are a lot less interested in Zion Williamson than they are, the new, evolution set, whatever it may be. So there's a lot I'm excited for. We've never been to a Comic-Con. Like that's what has me licking my chops. It's just like, let's do this all over again. Like what we've done in the modern side of sports cards. I'm very excited, and it's almost like we see it and we're ready. We're I don't want to say we're holding back, but we are very strategic, very strategic. We make the bad decisions, but you're never going to tell me they're not well thought out. And what I mean by that is we're kind of, I don't want to say we're holding back, but we're not at that starting gate yet. But when it happens, I happen to think it'll be really great, because we're just going to make it better for them. We're going to put a lot of pressure on the other companies, a lot of pressure to just get nicer to these people as well, you know. And I just think this kind of interview isn't offered at a lot of companies. But, you know, if you're a Charizard fan, or, you know, I'm a base set collector myself, actually, only base set, because I grew up in those days. But
I guess the early 2000s.
Look, I was born in 2005.
I collect base set, fossil. I collect fossil, and then I collect jungle, and that's where I end, because those are the original 151. I know them all. After that, I'm like, what am I looking at here? But I guess my point is, so many of our employees know exactly what they're looking at. I teach them about, you know, Harmon Killebrew, whoever it is, and they teach me about, you know, Lugia, because I'm, like I said, I end at 151. I think that's like 152 or shortly after.
And that's one thing we have in common. I grew up on the Game Boy games, the card game. I used to be 12 years old playing card games at my local comic book store that sold cards, and I'd be crushing these 10-year-olds that didn't have their entire brain formed. I had like 2 years more brain growth. I'd just crush them. So I got store credit, but that store closed down before I could use it all. So
Nintendo 64 Pokemon Stadium could be the greatest video game I ever played in my life.
See, you know what? Honestly, I played that. The Game Boy games, I think that was the best, because a Game Boy period back in the day is basically like the iPhone today, where you're like, I can play a game anywhere.
Better.
I mean, and the blue and the red, I'm like, Squirtle was my jam. I never got into Charmander or Bulbasaur. It was always start with Squirtle. Gengar was my number one, because he had Dream Eater, so he would actually take someone else's life and replenish his own. He was like the Wolverine of Pokemon, because you can like recharge your own life by hurting someone else, which is just amazing. Anyway, let's deviate.
The only Pokemon cards we have in the house are my youngest. My 7-year-old is autistic, and he just gets locked in on certain stuff. It'll be Mario, but now it's Pokemon, and my God, the kid he just talks about nothing except for Pokemon. It's incredible.
That's awesome.
Okay, all right. And look, lots of good questions in the chat. Give us a couple more questions, and then we'll do a rapid fire. See how many of these questions we can get answered. Talk about strategy, right? Everything's very strategic. Two things that are out of your control and our control is Fanatics taking over, and you know, the power play that would be in their hands in terms of cutting off distribution, and do they want to partner with a grader? If they're holding the cards and making sure that they're distributing it the way they want, that's definitely going to affect everyone in the hobby, including graders, especially if some graders have preferential treatments or partnerships. So and then the economy is the other thing too, is like, if no one has money, if everyone is trying to save $1 to get Pop Charts because they don't have jobs, cards and grading cards are not really a priority at that point. And you were, I think, 13 or 14 the last time the economy really crashed. So that's definitely a question, is like, hey, how are you guys prepping for maybe a potential recession that really affects cards? But I really want to start on Fanatics. If they take over, what's going on in your mind, in your graders' minds, in the leadership team's minds, in terms of, hey, what could potentially happen if a lot of the processes with cards now completely changes and it's distributed in a different way that might hurt you guys or just change things?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's put it this way. If I had the bandwidth to apply to Fanatics and still do my job here and not sacrifice anything, I would. Because I just want to be in that building yapping their ear off about what I think would help, what I think should be getting done. I mean, everything that I just talked about my capabilities as the grading company SGC, and then the lack of capabilities that I have in some ways. Man, does Fanatics have capabilities. I mean, these guys have the ability to go like this and bring in new blood to the hobby. I hope they do it, I don't want to say in the right way, because that implies that they're doing something with malicious intent, nothing like that, but I hope they're doing it the smart way. And what I mean by that is cards. It's about cards, and it's about the people who are basically buying, selling, and trading cards, collectors, the sense of community, and the cards, that's the only thing that at least it was enough to draw me in my whole life, at least, and I know so many others. The gambling aspect of breaking, I think I welcome it, because, like, why not? It's the same way, you know, states are now legalizing it. Like it's okay. It's not that I'm against that, but I do have a problem with something related to that. And I'm not sure if this is a controversial opinion or not. I guess I'll see later when I read some of the comments. But when I joined SGC and growing up, you know, even far before that, I had never bought into a break. Like, it was a thing. I'd watch box breaks online, but I just never bought into it. I'd just go to my local card shop, buy a box on eBay, and rip it myself. In my opinion, and it's just an opinion, that is the way everyone should be collecting cards. When you have the set in front of you, you're literally almost playing the game yourself. You get cards that might not be your favorites, so now you have to do something with them. Maybe trade them for the card you do want. You know, you might hit a card you didn't expect to hit, you know, that kind of thing. That is the way that I think it has to be offered. It's not to say that it's one or the other. It's not to say it's breaking or it's that. There's no breaking allowed. It's just to say that the problem with breaking many times is that the breakers are upcharging everyone so much for these boxes that they're taking in so much money that they're willing to pay Fanatics or whoever's manufacturing these cards so much money for these boxes, which is artificially jacking the price, pricing guys like me out who just want to rip a whole box at home. I ripped 2 boxes of Panini Prism football this year. I spent, and I don't know if I got a good price or a bad price, I'm embarrassed to even say it, but I spent $4,000, I believe, on 2 hobby boxes. I received about $130 worth of cards out of those 2 hobby boxes. And the real problem is not that I received $130 worth of cards. It's that I had to pay $4,000 to open some football cards, even a hobby box. Like, when I joined SGC, I was ripping 2018 Topps Chrome, a very quality product, by the way, Topps Chrome Baseball, for about $72 a box. And today, for $2,000 a box is a hobby box of football. I attribute a lot of that to, again, the business that is breaking, that's taken over wax, basically. It's that, you know, they'll pay whatever price, because when they split it in a million pieces and charge everyone a ton of money, it's like, you know, we all win except guys like me who want to open the box myself. So again, it's not that I'm against breaking in any way. I do think things have to change. Like, this is broken, if you ask me. I mean, when you're taking a $200 box, splitting it in 30 pieces, and each one of those pieces are $40, or one piece is $100, it will. I hope Fanatics changes it, because it's not good for the hobby how it is today. I just want to say, we deal with a lot of breakers. There are such amazing breakers out there. This is not me hating on breaking, because I have bought into breaks since I was a kid when I wasn't. I'm just saying we have to make sure the price of wax is affordable, because if not, how could you expect people to enter this hobby with the economy like this? I mean, $4,000, I pulled $200 worth of cards. That's not fair. That's not right.
I can't promise that I'm not going to clip that take and put it in tomorrow's video. I can't. No, I totally get it. I actually made a video today that's kind of along the same lines, but just kind of that sports betting element side of it. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, the interesting thing is, I think that ties together both of the questions, which is Fanatics taking over, cutting out distribution. Do they really lean into the gambling side, as Dustin pointed out in his video? Do they really go into that side? Because that's the money maker, right? Sports gambling is the money maker. Collecting and all that is like, oh, that's nice and fun and all, and we want to keep that. But if they're seeing green, they're looking at the gambling side. At the same time, you know, we might be in a recession right now, but we haven't really felt it the way that we could feel it throughout next year, where, you know, I always wondered, even from day one, what is the financial health of the person in sports cards? Do they have a $10,000 credit card limit and they're just transferring balances left and right? Or are these people that are mostly financially stable, good careers, and paying off their credit cards every month? And so, like, if all those people are the ones that are entering the breaks, because the odds are so bad, if that makes up the majority, and then all of a sudden they can't do it anymore. They've lost their jobs. They've maxed out their credit cards, and now shit has hit the fan. And then all of them leave. That would drastically change a lot of the hobby. That would change the whole landscape. So the first question with Fanatics is just more of like, I was actually leaning towards the strategy side of SGC. Is there something that you're thinking of in place when Fanatics takes over? Or do you see it as like, okay, I will probably have to ramp up graders and capacity based on this? Or are you seeing like a pivot that you guys might have to make based on a new company having full control over the product? So the first question was more along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, and I'll be happy to talk about that. I just want to say, Brad, you made such a good point when you said these people are bound to have no more money left to spend on cards. They're basically playing, again, it's like a 1 in 10 chance, but you're paying money as if it's a 1 in 2 chance. You will lose. It's like the casino. You will lose if you keep playing, and that's just a shame. There is a way we win, and it could be through breaking. There are just some things that need to change. As far as Fanatics goes and SGC's strategy, I could say this, and I am a super honest guy, sometimes to a fault, if I'm being real about it. But you know what, Brad? Like, I am, in a sense, it's not that Fanatics has given me any reason to be, but I'm petrified of Fanatics. Fanatics makes the cards. Why can't Fanatics choose a company or a path and just almost railroad this industry to get there? You know, I again, I want to be clear. Nothing about what Fanatics has done thus far has been almost left me scratching my head. I'm honestly a little out of the loop even. Remember, we're a grading company. We're not worried about, you know, the daily life of a card shop owner like that individual is. We're worried about our perspective, I guess you'd say. I'm just seeing trends in the hobby, and I know Fanatics has the ability to literally just correct them, basically. And, you know, we don't, as far as the strategy goes, we have a lot of things up our sleeve. Like, the worst part of my, I guess, position is that I can't tell people what I'm working on. I'm the one who sits at the desk and makes the announcements when we have something finished. It's been delivered. I'm telling you, hey, great news, this is here. What you don't see me saying is, guys, this is coming. For the most part, you won't hear me saying that. And if I'm being honest, the big reason is because our competitors tend to watch us very carefully. We do things very different than them, remember, and we're disruptors. And I can't give the playbook of what's going on behind the scenes because all of a sudden it's not even my playbook anymore. So I could promise you to and it's going to be general, and I hope I don't sound like a BSer. I know it's an adult show, but we are working on things that you would not expect from SGC. That, like, in other words, that problem I just talked about. Thanks, Mike. You're the man. Long time no see, man. If Fanatics doesn't do what I hope they do, we have a plan. And it sounds nuts, and it's like, how are you going to do something, SGC? But I could say there was an idea presented to me. It was not my idea. It is genius. And all of you that feel like breaking is fun, but you're kind of getting a little ripped off, let's just say if it keeps going on, we are literally going to insert ourselves. And I can't say how. I probably already said too much.
Well, then.
There are other people looking into things, but yeah,
that'll be the clip, Dustin.
There's a lot here. Like, we have a very, our team just wants this so bad that, like, nothing's off the table. We're very ready.
Awesome.
I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I don't know about you, Brad.
The guy with the scarf and the American flag with the medieval hoodie is ready to run through a wall. You hear that? Okay. So I know we got about 11 minutes left. A lot of really good questions. So I want to do some sort of fire round where you just go through as many answers or questions as possible, rattling off answers.
Just say pass if it's a pass.
Yeah. And guys, in the chat, this is the time to put your question one more time, because I don't want to scroll for 50 minutes and not see your question. So if you have a question for Peter, put it in now so they're all stacked up. So the last thing is just, we have Fanatics taking over. You guys have a plan. Does that incorporate what might happen in the economy? Because, like, there's a lot of uncertainty. People are a bit more hesitant. They're a bit more conservative, just holding tight. And that's a good way to be right now, is just to be a bit more responsible, not so frivolous. is that something that goes into your mindset and strategy as well? Is like, oh, we have X amount of graders, we have X amount of volume. What if it gets cut by 20% or 30% or things like that? Is there anything specific to the economy that you're thinking of or going to implement, or is it just overall like, hey, if volume goes down, if this shift happens, etc.?
No, look, absolutely. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think about that, like everyone is. I mean, I don't know exactly what you guys do for like a full-time living, but I can tell you, I'm sure you guys, you have families, you think about these things as well.
Don't have a full-time living or a family.
Well, there you go, the life.
The dark hole for Brad.
Everyone lives vicariously through me. It's great. I wish I could make a living doing
Brad
that.
just goes on phantom dates. So we just don't. He just posts food. Like it's just people throwing. People.
I'm mostly just on.
Take pictures of these plates. Like you're probably a waiter, and you're just taking pictures of people's dinners, like at these places.
Hinge
should be paying me a lot of money for the amount of advertising I'm doing for their dating app. But anyway, so yeah, you're thinking about all
anyway.
this.
What I was saying is of course, the I guess you'd say the impact of the downturn in the macroeconomic climate is affecting all of us. Guys, there are less cards that are submitted for grading. There are less cards being bought at card shops. There are less breaks being bought into, and the price of cards, especially the ultra modern, a lot of the high end, even low end, look at the evolution of base card prices over the last few years. It's a real thing. And I think as a grading company, it's irresponsible to not address it and to not call out the elephant in the room, which is that, guys, times could get tough here. I mean, it's the reason when we filmed the price decrease announcement, one criticism that we got, or I got, however you want to say it, was that it was doom and gloom for a price decrease. And I could see why people feel that way, because I'm talking about the poor state of the economy, unfortunately. However, I just think it's important. I don't, again, we have such a responsibility as a grading company, like at least in this precious little hobby of ours. Like we truly have a lot of power, and with that power comes that responsibility. And if I didn't think it was right of us to address the state of things not being so great, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the collectors that trust us as being those leaders. Like it's a real thing. Cards are not trending in the right direction when it comes to price, nor is any stock really right now. It's not a card issue necessarily. I happen to think there are things we could do in the industry to boost it and hopefully grow that pie for all of us. But look, when people have less money to spend, they're focusing on food and the things that I guess keeping the lights on, that kind of thing.
And when you have a lot of money to spend, you buy extremely strange hoodies that look like flags and scarves and medieval
Look,
attire.
Speaking of the economy, I buy a shirt that can also be a blanket, just in case.
I think one other thing I just want to add though real quick is I think that we happen to be, because I don't want to come off as all negativity here as well. One thing about SGC, we do have a competitive advantage in the fact that we are a very interesting size. We're big enough where we could basically serve the whole, I'm not talking PSA levels, don't get me wrong, but we could basically serve the whole hobby. We've done it now since the closures of it was March of 2021 or something like that. But at the same time, we don't have a 50,000 card capacity staff here, so we happen to be very nimble and you guys can probably get the feel of who we are. We're quick, we're ready, we're flexible, we adapt. So I think when talking about the potential downturn, there really isn't a grading company better equipped to take it on head on and remain healthy during tough times.
Absolutely.
How many graders do we have? That's a good question, Michael. We have, it's funny, I really should have a quantity on this. It does change because graders at times, as crazy as it sounds, our leadership team is made up of people that most of them have spent time in the grading room. It is a extremely valuable skill set. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to make it like it's interchangeable, but we do add them and they do go elsewhere. I believe right now we have about 20 graders.
A lot less than I thought. Okay, so We're going to run through questions. I think there's like 20 of them, so we can be quite quick. One thing you did say, though, is being nimble. I remember Richard Branson used to say that about his company, Virgin, and how he was able to really implement a decision very quickly based on how nimble they were versus a very corporate, like a big business with a lot of layers and a lot of degrees. It's got to go through this meeting, then this person, this person. So when you're able to see an opportunity and act quick, it could really work out in your benefit. Okay, so let's see how quickly we could run through all these questions. Ryan McClanahan, when is the company going to grade vintage autographs again?
So, Ryan, I recently spoke on the topic of autograph authentication, which was a service that we had offered when I joined SGC. We had an autograph authentication department. We had one of the world's best authenticators who was leading the charge here. He now works for Beckett. He's a great dude. The autographs is a tricky one. In fact, authenticating any other collectible rather than trading cards for SGC is tricky in its nature. I've talked about the fact that I evolve and we're open to everything. Today, there are not plans. I'd be lying, unfortunately, if I said there are plans to bring back autograph authentication. I would also be lying if I said that I don't revisit that thought constantly. I just spoke to Dustin about what we want to do for TCG is the exact same thing that we just did in modern sports cards. It's make it better, put pressure on these other companies, have them treat you like you matter. This is the only industry in the world where a 60-day listed turnaround time means a year and 2 months. And that's just like, okay, that's just how it is. It's bonkers. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we want to penetrate the TCG market, bring the power back to those collectors. And I kind of look at it the same. There are autograph collectors. There are game used bat collectors. There are Funko Pop collectors now who have essentially either one option or very few options. And I would love the ability to kind of have our team hopefully play the role as like, they're heroes, if that makes sense. But it's tricky. We don't do things wrong. We only want to do things right. And that happens to be an area with a lot of nuance. Again, not in the cards, no pun intended, today, but that could literally change tomorrow. And guys, I mean that. Like, it could change tomorrow, literally.
Okay. Not so rapid fire, but loving the thoughtful answer.
All right.
Very thoughtful. Very well put. Creating an SGC registry. I'm sure you get this all the time.
Yeah, Pete's never heard this one.
Yeah, that's funny. No, but the truth is, you say I've never heard it, Dustin, and you're so right. I've heard it a million times, but at the same time, as should I. I mean, I know the story, guys. It's almost like the good news for all of you is I was here back in 2018. I know what it was like when SGC had a registry, and I was speaking on the phone as a customer service representative to all of you who were using the registry. And I was also here when the registry got ripped out from under you. I was here when we told you it was coming back. Then I was put in charge, and I basically told you, I value you, it will be back, and it's still not back. So it makes sense why these people are like, dude, is this guy just totally, almost like a good talker, but is this total BS? And I can tell you guys, it really is not. There's two options to bring the registry back. Man, I give a lot of information. I just say it all. But anyway, there's two options for the registry. There's the more practical one, the more deliverable one, is we could almost try to bring it back similar to how it was, like a version of how it was. We try to make tweaks to make it a little better. And then there's the version where we can almost try to outdo the registries that are currently out there. That's a little more of a Hail Mary. That's a little more, hey, I'm going to keep coming out here and keep telling you to wait your turn for this delivery. I happen to be very confident at this point the registry will be back. I don't have an exact time frame, but I'm telling it's not that it will be back. Like I'm working on it in the future. That is now on my desk. I promise you guys, it's on my desk. Certain things go on my desk and they're delivered a month later. Certain things go on my desk and they're delivered a year and a half later. But I promise you You are very much valued, and I'm sorry that it's taken as long as it has. We've had a lot going on here, guys. We went from a very small company to a very large company, relatively speaking. A lot going on, but no excuses. You're heard, guys. It's happening.
Awesome. Yeah, great answer there. And I'm sure people love the thoughtfulness and the transparency. Why was the year 2000 decided upon as the year that would be the border for the upcharges?
So appreciate you're a huge fan, man. Thank you. As far as 2000, I could tell you. So card grading, anyone who tells you that like card grading's the same for T206s and for 1955 Topps cards and for 2022 Panini Prism cards, that's just not the case. It is so different even looking at a T206 and a 1955 Topps card, let alone skipping ahead when all of a sudden the card is shaped like a star and there's these gold, gold disco prisms all around. It's very different. The reason that we chose the year 2000 is because the cards prior to that, there is an insanely high level of alteration. There's an insanely, there's a ton to be gained by almost trying to, I guess you'd say, either game the system, continue to resubmit the same card, alter cards. There's a reason that to grade a 1933 Gaudi Ruth, you're paying a minimum $250. And the reason is because we don't want you to get that card back, try to crack it out, lay down the corner, send it back to us again, see if you got the 3 you were hoping for. Oh, it came back at 2.5. Now I'll try this, send it. That doesn't help the hobby. So it's a deterrent is my point, Mr. Contender. That's what it is. It's that there's a need for a deterrent on those cards. However, on the volatility of the modern market, in my opinion, I mean, I've heard horror stories where collectors are basically upcharged on the price today, and then by the time the cards are back, it's like, wow, I just lost a ton of a huge percentage of value of my card. The thing is, well, in addition to it being a deterrent on the older stuff, it's also the fact that that market is so much less volatile. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're watching 86 Fleer Jordans come down in price like many cards. However, your Gaudi Ruth, I mean, your 52 Mantle, your 57 Mantle, 55 Bowman, any card really, it's a much more steady price. So we feel more comfortable saying, wait a second, you just made a lot of money. We're going to do this. And there's a reason. Not to mention, we buy back these cards if we make mistakes. So it's not the worst thing that we're like, you know what, that's a lot of liability there. We'll take on a little more. But anyone who's telling you that like declared value is just there, the upcharge is just there for insurance purposes, that I'm not so sure about, if I'm being honest with you all. I don't think that's, I don't know. It's not going in some kind of escrow for insurance purposes. It's going in their revenue.
Yeah, it's a profit center for sure.
We are at the hour mark, but would you mind staying on a couple minutes longer just to answer these
Dude,
questions?
absolutely, man. I'm here as long as you guys want me.
Awesome. My bladder's feeling good, so we're all good there. A couple of questions regarding the slab, as usual. Any plans for improving the UV protection in the slabs? Love SGC, the toughest and fairest in the biz. Thank you, VVV.
Yeah, appreciate that. So the slabs are not UV protective as of now. So if you do lay it in the sun, I mean, we do get these horror stories. It's happened literally once, or I don't want to say once or twice, less than even a handful of times since I've been at SGC, where a collector just kind of mistreated the slab, left it out in the rain, literally left it in the car, where it's 120 degrees, or in the sun. The slabs are not, I guess you'd say, it's not Fort Knox, that's for sure. It's not really meant to be. It's more of a tamper evident display and protector for your card. The current iteration of that is not UV protectant. I think that when we go to the drawing board about future innovation, that, I'd be a fool not to put the idea, at least, of UV protection on the table. Now, that doesn't mean that it'll work out based on a variety of factors. There could be a vendor, just to put you in my shoes. Imagine this vendor has the plastic on hand to provide a UV protective holder, but that vendor can't deliver me that holder for, a very long time, or can't keep up with my quantities. So there's a lot to this, and I don't want to, I hate making false promises. I don't want to do that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not currently, so I don't want to give that impression. The good news is it seems like other kind of entrepreneurs in the hobby are coming out with some kind of either shells or almost like a phone case layer to put over the holder that makes it UV protected. If it was, it would only be better. And like I said, when looking forward to making every aspect better, when it comes to holders, UV protection is only a plus. That goes without saying.
I think there's room in the hobby for like a clothing manufacturer to make like slab clothing, and then you could have like a hoodie like Dustin's wearing over your favorite card.
Those would sell out immediately. They wouldn't be able to keep those on.
I'm looking forward to, though. There are so many really clever like card shirts you could make. Like there's a lot of things in the hobby that are still, so much has changed and so much has kind of been gone after, but there's still a lot left on tap.
A lot of cool stuff.
They're grading from A. But auto was, I saw the new label that said the card was the wrong size, but auto was authentic. Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, so we did just change, we didn't change any policy necessarily. We actually changed the way in which we display the identification or the grade assigned to cards that have been deemed to be altered. So what we found is there was a bit of confusion around cards that had just been authenticated and cards that received the authentic designation because they were deemed to be altered by our grading team, therefore disqualified from receiving a numerical grade. Our opinion was basically the more knowledge, the more power to the collector. So if the card is deemed to be trimmed by our grading team, rather than just putting an A on it to represent authentic, why not write the word authentic rather than just assuming that everyone knows what A means, and then actually putting why it's in an authentic holder. On the same token, if the submitter chose to almost negate to having their card numerically graded and deciding to just have it authenticated, that should not be looked upon as if it's an altered card, because it's not altered. It's just in an authentic slab. So we basically made that change to differentiate clearly, more clearly, the difference between an altered card and an original card. And some issues our grading team, just to be clear, guys, some issues our grading team will only authenticate. So if you have kind of a freak out of the factory a lot of the times, meaning some kind of proof or a blank back or a wrong back, there are many times where our grading team will actually only authenticate that item, even though there's been no sign of alteration whatsoever. So, and we do auto grade cards that have been deemed to be altered. For example, some of the biggest cards out of the 90s, like the 90s basketball Jordan autos and those early, very high value cards, it was the Wild West back then. And a lot of those cards are altered, unfortunately. So, just recently, I believe we did, it was a Michael Jordan, LeBron, dual patch auto. It wasn't like 90s, it was like early 2000s, maybe 2005 or something like that. But the autos were beautiful, but the card had color on it. So we put it in a holder, color added, auto grade 10, that kind of thing. If the autograph was deemed to be altered, we'd likely just kick that card. If not, it certainly would not receive an auto grade. It would basically possibly, I don't even know. I don't want to overspeak. That's our head grader's decision. But we wouldn't mess. You can't get an auto grade 10 is my point. If that's where the alteration lies, of course. I hope I answered your question. I apologize. I'm not sure I understood it completely.
Well, that was a good answer. I don't know if that was the question, but I got a lot of information.
Well, he did comment 100. So,
okay, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
I think we're good.
I'm not there yet. Okay, great comment by Brennan. It's no small thing to show publicly you care. PSA should take note of this. So again, another way that SGC and everything you're doing is standing apart from other grading companies, just in your transparency and admitting your shortcomings, but also where your strengths are and what you want to be in the hobby.
Yeah, I think also they are taking note. I mean, take a look around at the grading companies, guys. All of a sudden they're doing these things they never did before, and there's a reason for that. They are very much taking note, which I think is a win for all of us.
Awesome.
Grading.
Chris K.
That's a great question.
This.
That's a really good question. 30K, yes. 40K, a lot of overtime will be given out, that's for sure, but we'll be okay. This team is we've actually, what people don't realize is since these funky changes in the industry have happened with kind of the downturn in cards, and then pricing moves from all companies, which affects all other companies, we've made massive gains in capacity, actually. So, not so long ago, I spoke about a 5,000 card capacity. Today, that's quite easy for us. It's just, again, I prefer to be a little overstaffed. It's not that crazy. I'm just not making as much money, if I'm being honest with you guys, to keep that service same day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're kind of anticipating more cards too, or at least you're ready. You're ready for more volume versus if more volume comes, then you're scrambling. So, and you're giving more people jobs, which is cool. Michael Stone clarified right there. They did change it to the A. Great to see you, Brett. And if a depression hits, you can start slabbing gold coins. Thank you, Brian. Hobby Champs, SGC should create the open source universal set registry. That way they can not only be a part of a registry, they could steer people away from PSA's registry without segregating registry users. Good feedback from Hobby Champs.
Brad, do you mind if I address that one? That's a great point Hobby Champs has made.
Well, this segment is not rapid fire anymore. It's called slow burn. So go for
it. The fact is, first off, I totally agree. A universal registry is the way this should have been done a long time ago. I mean, I guess easy for me to say, right? But the truth is, think about it, guys. I own PSA cards. I own SGC cards. Okay. Do I prefer my cards in SGC holders? Yes, I do. However, sometimes I'm looking for a specific card. I can't find it in an SGC holder, but it'll be in a PSA holder, and it's not like it's burning a hole in my pocket to put it in an SGC slab. What I'm trying to say is this: it's very rare to find a collector that only uses one grading company or has cards of one grading company. Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that in my opinion, there's no reason to pigeonhole everyone to using one company. I mean, that really takes away, I guess, the power from the people, and they're now. This sounds a lot more dramatic than it is, but you're almost like slaves to the man that own that registry. And look, speaking back to SGC though, would I prefer a universal registry? Yes, I would. I would love it. In fact, if anyone has a universal registry, SGC would like to acquire it right now. Name your price type thing. And I mean that. Contact us. That's how badly we want this whole thing to change the way it is. However, with what we have now, I guess you'd say the resources at our disposal and the current goals and priorities at our company, it will likely be much quicker for me to deliver a registry much like the old SGC registry than the universal one. The universal one is more complicated. So it's almost like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, where I prefer universal, but don't be shocked if when that great day does come, that SGC's registry is just an SGC registry. It's just a matter of again, my capabilities currently.
Awesome. Chris K, what's Peter's take on the Backyard Breaks potential loaded boxes scandal? Are there loaded boxes out there?
I could say one thing. I know very little about this stuff. I mean, I see this. I just made an Instagram and I just made a Twitter. And when I scroll, I see the same things you all do. Not only do I not, God, I don't want this to sound like it's like, I don't want to sound like, oh, I don't have the time. I'm just too busy. I'm too important. It's not that. It's just, I really am, I am obsessed with SGC. I am obsessed with making this company the best version it can possibly be. I don't spend a ton of time looking elsewhere when it comes to scandals and things necessarily. I more look at hobby trends and if it's growing, shrinking, that kind of thing. Let's put it this way. If one company is given all the best cards in the product, like, God, I almost wish I wasn't in charge of SGC so I could really speak my mind. Like that kind, like, boy, would I.
You could always send us an anonymous note.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. That's kind of how I'm feeling. However, I know nothing. I really don't know much about it. I just hope that's not the case. Like, for God's sakes, if they are, and again, I don't know anything about it, but like, please let that not be the case. And I truly hope it's not. That's what I can say.
Awesome. A couple compliments here. Peter is the pioneer of the new frontier of grading. You don't see other grading companies coming out and speaking forthright. Thank you, Damon. Similar comment from the grumpy card guy. Not a question, Peter, but it's good to see a great guy in here like you without a Paul Bunyan scruffy face and hoodie pajamas like your cohort.
This guy knows his stuff, man. This guy knows. He's not the grumpy guy. He's the factual guy.
And I will say that must be a very comfortable hoodie based on your posture, Dustin. You're just like lounging.
Brad,
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious that you want one of these. Like, I'll figure out. Yeah, I'll send you one, dude.
You
like,
should. We should just appear wear the same thing one night. Be like, oh my god.
Joe G nailed it. Let's get Born Fly as a channel sponsor. That's the Born Fly brand. Yeah, check it out, guys. Born Fly. All right, go ahead.
Okay, let's see here. Yes, we did that, Chris. Any plans to modify the Tux label? Obviously, you get that question probably daily. Any update on that? Any new thoughts or any progress there?
One thing that is very tricky, if I'm putting you all again as best as I can in this short amount of time in my shoes here, what's interesting about SGC, guys, and not every grading company can say this, and I'm very proud to say it now. We truly grade, and I guess you'd say almost like, I don't want to say add value, like that's our only purpose here, to just add value to your cards. We grade so many different cards, meaning we are like arguably the number one, the number 1A, number 1B, number 2, whatever it is, with 19th century old judge cabinets and postcards, T206s, 1933 Gaudis, 55 Tops, 86 Fleer. Then we get into the modern stuff that we've broken into, like a bull in a china shop. There are so many different segments of this hobby. It happens to be something that I think we can work on. It's tying these segments together so this community is not as segmented as it is. It's okay to have different states call it, but we need that United States. We need that national pride, whatever you want to call it. What I'm trying to say is that these communities are so different than one another. I have one community that would kill me if I change certain things about the holder of the label. And I have another community that loves what I may have to say, but they don't love the look. And others in that community do love the look, and they're tuxedo time for life. And then there are others that are just, it doesn't do it for them. Personally, I love it on most cards. I can definitely see why another company, you might think that color card looks better in their holder, the same way other color cards definitely look better in our holder. So it's a subjective thing. It's difficult because there isn't one resounding opinion, not even that something should change, but more what to change to. It is a very difficult one. Like, believe me, guys, you should not envy me in that position. It's not a fun one. We have a lot of things on the table. We are truly sprinting towards so much. I mean, and for everyone out there, I am young and I come off like an everyday dude. It is really this is who I am on the camera, off the camera, with my team at home. I can say this though, we're getting better. Like, I'm getting better. When I took this job as the leader, I was 24, 25. Like, we're all almost maturing here, and the best truly is yet to come. We have a lot of really exciting, really kind of unexpected things that we're working on, where I think it'll send a shock to your system. Like, wait, I knew SGC were great graders. I knew they have that turnaround time. I know they're really transparent and honest, and just kind of like, hopefully you all think cool, whatever. But like, I was not expecting that from SGC. It's coming. It really is. There's a lot of excitement happening. So
the whole SGC team's going to be wearing these.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
No, I agree, Peter. I think the one problem that I agree, because I like the Tux case. Like, I like the look of it. So, and there's a lot of people that are in that same camp. So I almost feel like you have to come up with a second option, because what happens? Yeah, you replace the Tux and people are like, well, screw this. We wanted the Tux.
Yeah.
So it's either like a second option or there's nothing. Like, there's no, I just don't see how you can replace it completely.
Yeah, look, and to be clear, I want to say this too, guys, with your help. Like, it's almost like I took this job with the goal in mind to just try to help all of you, just not upset anyone, just take the responsibility and hopefully do my best with it. And what you guys have done, by the way, we don't talk about this much. Like, in case you haven't realized, we have 180 plus employees. Like, you guys have changed the lives of so many people on our team, mine included. And what I'm trying to get at is, guys, we may appear like we're honest and truthful and down to earth, and we really are. But we're also successful. And we can acquire, again, there are a lot of these grading companies out there where you might not think they're grading cards with any kind of real expertise, call it, but you might think they did a good job on the plastic. We could buy their plastic. We could simply inherit their plastic that certain collectors really love. At the same time, I have quite a big spend, which I'm currently using, to innovate, to basically make different iterations of what we have, just for the sake of experimentation. All of that is happening, guys. Dustin, you hit the nail on the head. If I pull it off the table, I mean, geez, that could be the worst thing in the world to some people, and myself included, by the way. I would be quite a disgruntled customer if that were to take place. So the option of maybe an alternative or a different style, definitely on the table, as are many different things, but it's a great point you made.
Awesome. We'll do two more just because these questions are now in the bonus time and it's just going to keep adding. But Michael Stone, I got to bring yours up. Curious to hear what your thoughts on Neo's video on the card grade company suggestions, specifically CSG buying SGC with you as the front man for the sports grading department. Any,
Rob wants this so badly to happen. My God, he wants this so badly.
I can say this. We currently stand as, and I'm not sure everyone takes a second to realize this. We currently stand as the only grading company. I don't want to misspeak. To my knowledge, guys, and I mean it, to my knowledge, we are the only grading company without like heavy institutional money backing it and kind of pulling the strings and deciding which way we go and deciding what we're going to prioritize. We're the only ones that remain kind of the same company we were before the boom, before this hobby was what it is today, I guess you'd say. Now, with that, I would be lying to all of you if I said that there wasn't an intense and very high level of interest by certain people that are watching what that team in black is doing and saying, you know what? They have really big competitors and they're disrupting, man. They're onto something, those guys. I want to bet on black. I believe in what they're doing. And I think maybe if I can give them these resources or help them here, the accelerated or that disruption and the growth will only be accelerated. What I'm trying to say is, newsflash, guys, there's interest in SGC by a lot of different people, call it. All I can say is that the person or the team, the group, the company, whatever it may be, if we end up meeting the individual where we are convinced that doing a partnership with them, essentially linking up with them, will make our employees' lives better, will make the hobby better, and will help us achieve our goals, not their goals, but our goals faster or easier or on a bigger scale or stage, heck yes, I'm going to sign on the dotted line. And I could promise you the only ones I would be doing it with are those that essentially say like truly, honestly, keep doing what you're doing. Like, just tell me if you need money. Tell me if I can help you with materials. Tell me if I can, move you into the new office a little more seamlessly so operations aren't disrupted. The bottom line is that the company that I believe lands SGC or the team or, again, the individual that bets on us is going to be the one that wins, because we get this hobby differently. We really are you guys. We're not, it's different. It's a different kind of thing. So as far as any other company buying us, that's my take on it. That's my take. It's like, welcome to the hobby. There's a lot of corporate money that's come in, and we are not doing anything with anyone that wants us to become anything but what we are today, which is giving the hobby the service, the grading, and just the overall experience that it deserves.
Awesome. Last question, definitely the most important one. Average Joe card collector, would you rather wear Dustin's sweater every day or pull a nose hair each morning, but get to pick whatever shirt you want. I'd rather pull hairs from a lot more sensitive regions than wear Dustin's sweater. But what about you, Peter?
I've never been more comfortable in my life.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've answered some tough questions here. That has been the toughest by far. I would do a lot of things before I put on what Dustin's wearing.
Yeah. But if you ever want to be a backup dancer, Dustin, you could just roll right into the casting. You don't have to get ready. I'm sure they would just hire you based on your hoodie.
It's just a matter of time before everyone's wearing these. Okay. So I'll take all that. I'll take all that hate now, but next, it might be 6 months, might be a year, might be 5 years. And then boom, all of a sudden everybody's in Born Fly.
When You Got Served 14 comes out, that'll be the official hoodie of it. So that'll be great. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Peter, thanks so much for spending an extra 25 minutes and really diving deep into your company and being so transparent and forthright about what you guys are doing, and including the good and the things you're still working on as well. I think everyone here really appreciates just you taking the time out. I know it's late for you. It's like 10:30-ish right now, but I know it's well received and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, anytime, guys. I mean that anytime. This is like my favorite part of the job, actually being able to talk in real time to collectors. So thanks so much for having me, guys. And even more than you two, thanks so much for everyone tuning in. It means a lot. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Hit a thumbs up. Hit that little thumbs up logo on your screen right there. That helps a lot. And then obviously consider SGC if you haven't before. Definitely follow them on Instagram as well to see what they're up to and to stay in touch with any breaking news that they may have. So have a great night. Go Bucks. Dustin, enjoy your comfortable sweater that looks hideous on camera.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.